Hey everybody, I'm Tamara and welcome to Tam's Psych Advice. Today we're going to talk about which one would you prefer to work with? Would you prefer to work with an ISFP or would you prefer to work with an INFP? And as you can see, these types are similar, but they're in different temperament families. One is in the SP family and the other one is in the NF family. And so you're going to see a lot of characteristics of that temperament in each one. So even though they're one letter off, they still have a different temperament, even though I think both of these types can be pretty easygoing for the most part. Because, well, with SPs, they've got competitiveness down deep in them. So they're going to have a need to satisfy that urge to compete or to be a little competitive. And that's not saying that they're that way all the time, but that's what gets their adrenaline going at times, is that competitive edge can make them push themselves forward to get the job done, to be the best at it. Whereas the NF, they have that NF thing going on. So they're going to be into how are people feeling. Let me put the needs or check the pulse of the people that I'm working with to make sure that they're feeling okay. But I think both of these types could actually be quite easy to work with. So let's look first at the ISFP in the workplace and see what you think. When I say competitive, they're probably not as competitive as an ESFP or an ESTP would be whatsoever. It might be more for them like an adrenaline rush, like they can kind of bring up the rear. So like if there's a last minute project, they would probably be a good person to put on your team because they'll get a really good adrenaline rush and they'll also have the headspace to keep cool while also working super fast to get the job done. So they are not very controlling. They don't mind working behind the scenes. In fact, they may prefer it. They're not going to like to be restricted by a whole bunch of rules or a whole bunch of structure or inflexibility. They need a little wiggle room and some freedom to kind of do their own thing. They do not want to feel restricted. But the good thing about them is that they really like helping people and they don't mind helping people develop practical skills, and they can have a lot of patience for that, thank goodness. And they do, believe it or not, they do have some level of perfection or wanting to get things right when they are working on a project or a craft or whatever it is at work. They do have something within them that wants to get things right, and they can bring enthusiasm and sense of happiness to the work environment. So they're generally pretty easy to get along with. And they can do well in emergency situations. They can be very compassionate. I guess a downside would be sometimes they may become indecisive, or sometimes if there's not that last minute push or something that's pushing them forward, they could really procrastinate, especially if they're working on their own little business or their own little craft ideas, or just they can have the ideas and get super excited and get everything they need to make that happen. And then they'll keep putting it off every day, like I'll get to it tomorrow. And that's just some of them. There's always the exception to the rule, but they can become indecisive. And what happens when people become indecisive? It stops them from making decisions, and it can also halt their motivation. They can also have some issues with organizing, but like I said, generally speaking, they're trustworthy. They're good people to have on your team. They're dependable. more than likely they're gonna get the job done and they're gonna do a good job with it as well. The cool thing is that they're sympathetic, they're loyal, they can be very kind, they're not selfish, they can be generous, and they are interested in the needs of others. They can be really easy to talk to, and they can be very good listeners, can be very observant of others. So some of them may be Enneagram 5, which is the observer. And just for fun, here's a few jobs that they can have that they might really enjoy, but of course, it's not limited to this. They could be a teacher, police officer, mechanic, counselor, nutritionist, a botanist. They could be do jobs that deal with computers. They can also be very good at being in the beauty business. So they might be a hairstylist or a barber or a makeup artist. Those are things that they may enjoy as well. They could also be a geologist or some type of biologist or nurse, optician, police officer, veterinarian. So there are a lot of different things that they can be. So let's talk about the INFP and what it would be like to work with them. So INFPs can be very easygoing, very gentle, very calm. They can be flexible when it comes to certain things, unless it has to do with their values. Then they can become inflexible when it comes to something that they really believe strongly in. But other than that, they're usually pretty go with the flow. Now, here's where they can be similar to the ISFP because they're not going to like schedules, deadlines, rules. Not to say that they don't like that to a certain degree. Most people in the workplace don't want chaos. So it's not that, but they can find that very restricting. They kind of like to go at their own pace. So they may not reach a deadline like other people, or they may not just be like, okay, I made a decision. They might want to think it through, take their time getting to the decision that they want to make. They are quiet achievers, but they're not gonna like working in a competitive environment. Now, this might surprise you because they are so easygoing and go with the flow, but they may not like interruptions so much. When they're in their zone, they want to be able to focus, and they can be a bit perfectionistic when it comes to certain things. They can be very patient. They can deal very well with complex ideas and tasks and be very comfortable with that. Become very sad or frustrated if they can't reach their goals in life. That is that would be very disheartening for them. And the good thing about them being intuitive is they're going to be able to play with possibilities and look at things from different angles. But like the ISFP, they can be indecisive and have difficulty figuring out what it is that is of most importance to them. So that can be definitely a struggle, but they can do very well. They need to feel appreciated and like their contributions matter, even though some of the things they do them quietly. So let's look at some jobs that they could have. They could be really good in science because they have the patience to dissect those kinds of things and just think in complex ways. They can be good psychotherapists. They could be good in the arts because they are idea people. Same with ISFPs. They can also be very good in the arts. Like both of these types can be, whether it's music, acting, being an artist, a painter, that kind of thing. INFPs could be good librarians. They could be good in theology or something in the ministry, would be great for them. They could be good speech pathologists or good writers or good in the fields of holistic health. So there are many different things. Architects, massage therapists. So they have a lot of different things that they can do and do a really good job at. So which one of these would you prefer to work with? An ISFP can be very open and flexible. They can focus on meeting the needs of others. They can have kind of a quiet or modest style. They can also be gentle and compassionate, open and flexible, but they can also enjoy having fun. So, like, if they're going to want to bring some type of fun to the job, that is just them. And they're going to enjoy each moment of life and focus on the beauty in life and the environment. And they want to ensure the well being of others. And the good thing about working with them is they're not going to force their views and opinions on people. They're going to allow you to think how you think and be who you want to be. For the most part, unless we're talking about parenting, then they can be pretty tough sometimes, believe it or not. On the other hand, INFPs, they can focus very deeply on their values and they will devote their lives to pursuing whatever ideal they have in their life. And they want to find purpose in whatever they're doing in the workplace and also in the people that they're working with. And they can be quite creative. And even though they can be kind of quiet, they can still really push for what they think is important, and they are tenacious. So they don't give up very easily. They're going to push for whatever their dreams, goals, or ideas are. And they can also be funny. They can have like an interesting sense of humor that may surprise you sometimes if you get to know them. And actually, so can ISFPs. So they can both be pretty, tap into a sense of humor. And they just want to make the world a better place and in line with their internal vision. And they can also be perfectionistic in some ways. So both of these types, I guess the downside is they might want to go with their own flow and at their own pace. They may get frustrated by deadlines. I've seen people get frustrated with some of them because they may be last minute on making plans or completing ideas or completing a task. They might need that last minute energy. So if you're the opposite that could be frustrating. But then on the positive side, they're going to have the patience to figure things out because they're not going to just need that closure so badly that they're willing to things down at any cost. They're going to have the patience to really work through issues and problems and figure out the best route. So if you're one of these types, tell us what your career is. And if you have a preference of working with either one of these types, which one would it be? When you're feeling down in a crappy mood, it's hard to get out of it by simply thinking happy thoughts, especially these days. Check out my jewelry at the Etsy link below. You'll be amazed at how good it feels to wear something that shifts your mood and lifts your spirit. Imagine wearing something fun and feeling better at the same time. Check out my book, The Workplace Narcissist by Tamara Hunter Zyon on Amazon. Bye!